While the country has been focused on the COVID pandemic, another crisis that has also gotten worse is opioid addiction. This month, the National Institute on Drug Abuse released a study saying that opioid overdoses increased 29% last year. Joining me now are two people who know firsthand the struggles of that crisis, Pennsylvania Congresswoman Madeleine Dean and her son, Harry Cunnane, who together penned a book titled Under Our Roof, A Son's Battle with Recovery, a Mother's Battle for Her Son. Thank you both so much for being with me here tonight.
Thank you for having us, Kira.
Harry, I want to start with you. I have to say, I started reading it last night. It was hard to put down. And you write about the fact that you had this upbringing that you described as the American dream, that you were loved fiercely, you were cared for fiercely. So, of course, as a mom, I'm wondering what led to drugs if you were living in a household that was so filled with love?
That's something we wanted to share through our writing and our experience, is that, it's not necessarily always something that you can pinpoint that causes it. If we look at substance use disorder as a disease, then I think it allows us to take the focus off of why this is happening. Because as I wrote about, my upbringing was, I think I wrote picture perfect. There was nothing more that I could have asked for from my childhood, but I still found myself here. So I think if we focus on this as a disease and a treatable disease and look at the solutions rather than the why, it'll help us really be able to move forward and hopefully help a lot more people.
Well, let me ask you this, because you also wrote in the book that you were sheltered from challenges. I thought that was interesting. During your upbringing, you mentioned that your parents were there to always protect you. And look, I'm that way as well. But in your case, do you think that this was detrimental?
I'm not sure. And I know that, I have young kids now, and I will likely try to protect and shelter them from anything I possibly can. With a substance use disorder, so much of it starts with things that seem innocent, seem relatively normal, whether it's drinking in high school or something small, and it really snowballs from there. So whether I had been, sheltered from it, it was something that had impacted our extended family and was there. Wasn't the first time we had seen it. But at the same time, I think we need within our households to have more open dialogue about what this really looks like, and remind people that the disease itself doesn't discriminate no matter what your upbringing is.
Representative Dean, mom to mom here, knowing what you know now about Harry's struggle with drugs, would you have parented any differently?
Well, what was interesting? We wrote this book separately. We created an outline together, and then you can see we use alternating voices. We wrote separately. I didn't want to have my memories of our struggle and then his recovery and long-term recovery colored by what he had gone through. I have to tell you, Kira, in the reading of the book, it broke my heart to learn how, as a young child, he was so full of fears. You would never have seen that if you met Harry when he was 6, 7, 8, 9. He was this fearless little boy. So I don't know what I would have done differently. I literally don't know.
And Harry battled with his drug addiction for such a long time. You both talk about that. And I'm curious, Representative Dean, when you and your husband finally discovered how bad this was, that this was happening under your roof, the title of your book, how did you handle it?
Well, you can see through our writing that I was at Harry and Harry was at me for years. We pinned it down finally and discovered that he was stealing money from us. I literally went to pay a bill, went to our bank account and recognized that our bank account had been nearly drained. Figured out that it was he who was stealing. And so what we did was we sat him down. And I had been told you're going to need an interventionist, and sometimes you do, but we sat him down and said, Harry, we know it's drugs. Are you ready to get help? And for the first time in 10 years, Harry didn't have a fanciful story to tell, and he said yes.
Wow. And Harry, what led to that? Why all of a sudden, after so many years of lying to your parents, did you decide that that was the moment that you had to be transparent and you had to just you had to give your heart and soul to your parents and to getting help?
For me, it was just that. It was the process, you know, the years of just the way that I felt, you know, hating myself for so many years. One of the big turning points in my story was when I was 21, you know, I had a child, and I had believed that that was going to be the thing that was going to pull me out of this, you know, that the love for my daughter was going to save me and stop my active addiction. And I quickly found out that that wasn't enough.
And I know you guys wrote another book, too, titled You Are Always Loved. And this book is for children of addicts. It's obvious why this is so important. Harry, what did this book mean to you as a parent now?
This book is so important to me. You Are Always Loved really is something that, even going through this process, you know, I have a 9-year-old daughter, Aubrey, I have a 1-year-old son, Sawyer, and I have a third on the way. And being someone in, you know, now long-term recovery, it's still not always easy to have those conversations with our kids and talk about it. And that's something that we wanted to provide a platform for families to have these conversations.
I just have to say, Mom, when you look at your son right now, how does it make you feel yes, exactly. You want to hug him and you want to kiss him. How does it make you feel now when you hear him and you see him and you sit next to him, knowing what he's been through and knowing that what you're looking at now is that little boy that at 100 pounds made the football team and was the spirit of that team?
It's just joyful, utterly joyful. And that's one of the reasons we wrote the book. We thought if we can show others our fault lines, the difficulties we had, the difficulties of someone in active addiction, and then the joy and the hope in recovery, we might help somebody else. That's literally what we hoped. I had no idea. I thought it was drugs. I thought it was addiction. I had no idea what addiction really looked like until he got into recovery, and literally until I read his half of the book. I did not know the depths of this.
Speaking of that, not just a mom, but you are a member of Congress. So I have to ask you a political question as well. I mean, as we know, Congress can be quite stubborn when it comes to policy and getting things done. Where do you feel that you can confidently make an impact when it comes to governmental decisions now and drug addiction? Because it's personal for you now. It's not just a professional thing.
I think the most basic thing we can do is, number one, I literally have a bill called Stop the Shame. It has to do with college campuses and making sure that people realize that the stigma should not be associated with disease. We also have a bill around healthcare. Addiction services, recovery, and treatment ought to be a part of mainstream healthcare, not something a la carte that's too expensive for most people. So we have a bill around that. We also have bills around criminal justice reform, because you know and I know that while the disease doesn't discriminate, our criminal justice system sure does. And so too many people of color are behind bars or have criminal records because of their substance use disorder. We have to stop that.
We'll be following all your moves, that's for sure. Harry, I know you've had a second chance at life, also love and a family. Congratulations, your family is gorgeous. Congresswoman Dean and Mom, I know you're very proud mom, grandmother, and a part of Congress trying to make a difference. Thank you both so much for just sharing something so personal with all of us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.